This is an Adobe Photoshop video tutorial on the RAW file format. Basically, I just want to show you the difference between working on an image from a RAW and working on an image from a JPEG. All cameras will output to a JPEG no matter what the price point. However, when you start going up higher in the price point, let's say over $300, just as a rough estimate, then you start getting the RAW as an option. And at that point, you definitely want to start using that file format, and I'm going to show you basically why you want to do that. Now this image that I have right here, I currently have as a JPEG. And at this point, there's nothing more that you can do with it that won't do actual damage to the image. I can keep adding layers and I can keep making changes, but if at any point in time you have to flatten all those different changes, for example, I make a move and I create that adjustment, and I make a move and a move and a move, and whatever changes that you actually make to the file. And let's say at some point in time you have a need to flatten and merge all those changes. Well, at this point you've done damage to the original pixels. If you save the JPEG again, well, then it does more compression to the image, and that's even a better point right there. When you do save as a JPEG, it's actually throwing away pixel information, and it's trying to fit the amount of color information into a smaller space in order to compress the image. By default, the camera's going to do minimal damage. However, it is there. There's no two ways about it. And if you go to save it again as a JPEG, obviously it's just going to do more damage and more damage and more damage. Working in a JPEG is definitely something you want to avoid doing. I just want to quickly show you that if I take that same image and open it up as a RAW, now this particular program is called Camera Raw. It's built into Photoshop, and this picture was taken with a really old camera that I used to have, a Konica Minolta. And it took a RAW image, and essentially the difference is the JPEG image is made up of pixels, and I'm pretty sure that the RAW data, rather than made up of pixels, it's made up of ones and zeros. And basically it's just ons and offs, the amount of information that pixel carries with it. So if I want to go in here and start making changes, I can change a million different settings about this image before I ever bring it into Photoshop. The beauty of it is the information that was taken from the camera is an exact duplicate. After I make all these changes, I'm not damaging any of those original settings. All I'm doing is modifying the existing information. And if I ever need to go back to it, I most certainly can, because what it does is it stores all the changes that I make to an image within the image. There's definitely different ways for it to save that information. There's different raw processing programs, and the different ones will store this information in different ways. It could save it as an external file, so that you have two files going with it. One's a RAW and one's a .xml, and that's one way to do it. Another way is to embed the information within the RAW itself, and another way is Capture One creates another folder which has preview information and color change information, and that folder has to go with the main folder, i.e. that the image, when the image goes, it has to bring this external folder with it. And yeah, it seems a little bit like more work than it's worth, trying to worry about extra files and whatever. But if you start thinking in the workflow approach of a professional photographer, wherever this image is, it's probably staying with the job, and any of these external files are staying in the location that they originated in, and they're not being broken up and moved apart. So it's not as bad as it sounds. Again, the beauty of it is that it keeps all this information as a separate entity from the original file, so we're not doing damage to the original file. You can do a world of changes to the actual RAW file. So let's say we can open up an exposure overall to the image, which, by the way, I should say that most changes are overall changes. However, as technology continues to advance, these programs have started working in masking capabilities and layering capabilities. So you can start doing whole Photoshop type of work before you ever even get to Photoshop. It's pretty crazy what you can do nowadays. I'm just going to quickly make a couple settings here. Recovery, what that does is it darkens the lights, trying to get back any lost information. And again, the beauty of it is this is from raw information. From the moment of the click of the button on the camera, whatever is possible to be saved can be saved. If it's just a JPEG, what you have is lost information, like a blown out white. It is lost, blown out white. There's not too much you can do about it. But from this raw file, you may very well be able to salvage the missing information. This particular tool is going to bring back some detail in the darks. However, when it does do that, I would like to show what happens. It brings in all this noise, but then we can go over to the next tab over here for the noise reduction, and then we can adjust the luminance. And suddenly all the noise is gone. Now what it's actually doing is a blur, and it's going to create a pasty effect, and it's not something you want to do on recognizable things like people, but in an image like this, it's a perfectly good thing to do. And so just to go back, you know, we can add more contrast, we can add brightness, blah blah blah, all the different things. Clarity, what that does is it adds contrast as well as sharpening, all within the same move. Vibrance, as I've covered in a previous video, is doing one thing while saturation is doing another. I do apologize that the bottom half of this window is running off, but you're not really missing much. All it says is save image, open image. There's nothing of vital importance down there. We can go in here and we can make all these changes as a global. Now, while it looks like all these moves are doing the same thing, lightening and darkening, the way that it actually handles the pixels is completely different. So you may want to use one tool as opposed to another. You can go in here and do extra sharpening. And then over here, let's say we want to brighten just this instead of using that saturation from before. I can click on that. Then I can make the oranges brighter or darker. And basically this is the selective color. That is another tool within Photoshop, which is actually that one right there. But from hue, I can go and change it completely. So all these changes that I'm making, we haven't even gone into Photoshop yet. All these changes are completely based off of the original information, like I said. And so I got all these tabs. I can sit here all day working on this image, and just within the Camera Raw or Adobe Lightroom or Apple Aperture or Phase 1 Capture 1. Now, all these different programs are designed to work specifically with raw images. And that alone should tell you the power of working with raw images as opposed to JPEGs. Now, just to move this along, you saw all the different changes I made to this. And let's say I actually like this and I go open image. Now that's what I just created before I ever even came into Photoshop, and this is the original JPEG. Let's assume that this JPEG was the original that came out of the camera. Now what do I do? Okay, I mean, this is completely muddied. And I'm not even sure where I can start that will even begin to salvage this. I mean, I can give it a shot. But I mean, you get the idea. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm tinkering with all these different layers, and that's just it. I got all these layers going, and I'm going to continue to have layers going. And then in order to get in there, I got to start masking things off, and I got all kinds of trouble going on when the Camera Raw just did it all in one shot. Now, of course, this isn't the best, export of an image I've ever done, I can assure you that, but you get the idea that, all this stuff can be done before it ever comes into here. And if I wanted to work on it again, I can just bring that image back in, and it saved all that information. So if I say, okay, I decided that it is too dark, I can go in here and I can lighten that, or I can add the exposure to it, or whatever. I mean, I can always go back to it and then reopen it. And then if I wanted to, I can mask off of here and bring it into the other image, or whatever the case is. So overall, Camera Raw, much better file format, because the JPEG, I'm really stuck. Now, I brought it in, it is what it is. I got all this noise going on that I got to deal with separately. And again, when working with the Camera Raw, everything is right here. That's also the beauty of it, that within all these programs, all your changes are all in a row. You don't have to go all over Photoshop. You don't even have to know how to use the programs. All you have to do is just move a slider a little bit back and forth and figure it out. So if you do have the option to use Camera Raw, I definitely strongly recommend it, because it just makes sense. And working with a JPEG, or even a TIFF for that matter, you start needing all these different layers, and you start needing to know Photoshop inside and out. When using Camera Raw, you don't have those difficulties at all. If you found this video helpful, please go to www.theartofretouching.com, where you can find more tips and tricks to make you a better photo retoucher.